Star Trek 57, M23, take 2.
It's got Star Trek. Episode 50. Discovery, Season 3, Episode 4, Forget Me Not.
Please, speak your names.
I am Kasha Tal, Jovar Tal, Medela Tal, Kara Tal, Senna Tal, Ray Tal, and I am Adira Tal.
So should we start the show at some point?
Let's start the 50th episode.
Right now? You want to start it right now?
Yeah.
We can do a little warm-up banter.
All right. I thought we weren't supposed to do that. Dilly-dallying.
We're actually starting a few minutes early.
Are we?
By like 2 or 3 minutes. We usually start around 10:40.
Oh, you mean the actual time we start?
What'd you think I meant?
All right.
Like, what other kind of time is there?
Space time.
This is a show about time travel to some extent.
Yeah, it's true. That's a good point. You make solid points.
All right. Excellent. So,
Egg salad.
egg salad. With that, we will get started with episode number 50 of the It's Got Star Trek podcast.
No kidding. Episode 50.
Episode 50.
That's fucked up.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. You can celebrate at 50, or since we're a weekly podcast, you could celebrate at 52, because that would be a year.
That doesn't flow with our base 10 way of thinking.
Yeah, exactly. So we're based on kind of folks. So anyway, episode 50 of the It's Got Star Trek podcast. Welcome. And tonight we will be discussing.
We have a very special show.
We do have a special show. We're gonna have there's a whole 50th episode extravaganza. There's gonna be all sorts of crazy stuff going on, but primarily we're gonna be discussing Star Trek Discovery. Episode 4 of season 3. And what's the title of this episode, Dan?
Forget Me Not.
Forget Me Not. That's right.
Not last week where IMDb told me it was Forgot Me Not.
And I looked that up.
Oh, man.
Because last week Dan said it appeared that the name of the episode was Forgot Me Not. But it turns out that is inaccurate.
No.
And IMDb... They did indeed say that.
I thought you were
for
challenging my.
No, I'm supporting you with documentary evidence.
Yeah, they changed it.
I went to IMDb and looked, and I was like,
Yeah, because I remember when I said "Forgot Me Not," you were in disbelief. Patrick was in disbelief. Jesse didn't really have an opinion, or he didn't express an opinion one way or the other. But
I don't remember seeing any sort of.
And so because Patrick was so like incredulous about it, I had to like look really close, and I had said "Forgot Me Not."
If you run back the tape, though, I was somewhat incredulous, but I thought it would have been a cool idea. I don't know. It sounded cool to me. Forgot Me Not. It's like sci-fi in future,
right? Like somehow it would reveal some kind of secret in the title,
time loops or something.
Yeah. So, but
anyway, it wasn't to be.
So IMDb is. I mean, people always. I mean, I don't think people joke anymore about. Well, people do. It's going to take me forever to get to my point here, apparently, because I'm sort of keep interrupting myself.
It's not us this time.
Yeah.
Definitely not us.
People, the joke is like Wikipedia. You can't trust that. I don't know if people really make that joke much anymore because Wikipedia, it's not the end all, but they're pretty on point with how fast they update their shit.
Definitely more on point than IMDb.
Exactly. So, right. IMDb is the one that people should be giving shit to, but no, not as many people talk about IMDb. And then
give more shit to IMDb. That's the message of the day. All right. Well, so Forget Me Not. Talking about key messages. The messages.
Talking about key messages.
Talking about key messages. Yeah. I don't know. Let's just get right in the episode.
Okay.
What'd you think?
Well, first of all, before we start, I want to point out that, and though I am regretful that it will not be as much of a reason to practice my sort of
appropriate gender pronouns.
Yeah, my.
That's where this is going.
Yeah, somehow Patrick knew exactly where I was going with this.
Deduced.
Yeah, it was inclusive. I won't be able to practice my inclusive language. Of course, I can, but this was going to
No.
be a challenge. But yeah, Culber officially referred to Adira as she. And
I
then
think
several
that's-
times in the episode.
I think that's going to change.
Yeah, because actually, I read something that was interesting that sort of cleared it all up for me. And the actor, Blue Del Barrio,
Del Barrio.
was saying that Adira ends up straightening everyone out on that.
Yeah.
They tell everybody how to call them. So.
Okay, so she hasn't laid down the rules yet.
Yeah, she
or
just
the way it is yet.
she's just
So we will
being
continue
patient.
to have the
She's-
opportunity
They are being patient.
to practice and fumble, and then practice again using appropriate gender pronouns.
I feel like a little bit embarrassed to say this, but I have to practice this. This is something I might have to practice on my own because it's
I don't
really
think
hard
there's-
for me to concentrate.
But I don't think
It's
there's
so ingrained
anything
in me.
embarrassing about that. I think that's perfectly normal, right? It's an adjustment. The language is weirdly, it's both flexible and rigid. It's flexible in that it can evolve. It's rigid in that it really digs grooves into your brain, which is why you can tell when somebody says something in weird grammatical order, but you couldn't point out the actual mistake. You just know it doesn't sound right.
Right.
You have to develop new grooves.
grooves.
As we know from the Emperor's New Groove, it's a fun and rewarding and character building activity to lay down a new groove.
Yeah, we're not going to be getting our groove back. We will be making new grooves.
No.
Unlike Stella, who got them back.
Yeah, she got her groove.
They should have called that last Star Wars movie "The Emperor's New Groove."
Yeah.
Yeah, that'll be on
Anyway,
the.
that's a different podcast.
It's got Star Wars podcast.
I thought this was a really I thought this was a really nice episode. Nice, not in like kind of like it's so nice. I mean, like it made me feel good watching it. You know,
Yeah.
I was just it sort of made me feel kind of warm and fuzzy in a good way. And I
Yeah.
dug it. I thought it was pretty cool.
It was an episode in some ways about healing that had healing properties in and of itself. I think because it kind of
Yeah.
just put stuff out there. Mm-hmm.
It had some kind of sad or sort of melancholy or wistful kind of sad piano music playing at the opening. of
except
Culber's
when they were bringing back some of that whimsical music when relating to Adira. Some parts with Adira had some of the whimsical music
gotta have some whimsy
early
Shake
on.
it up.
Yeah, but I guess so. What did they cover in this episode? They covered mental health. They covered sort of the nature of identity and the importance about like being connected to other people. And sort of like mashing that together in a soup where how they're all related, in other words, like the Discovery crew, right at the beginning in this teaser, Culber's doing his rounds, doing his ministrations and stuff, I guess scanning people, getting their vitals, and
Made it seem like it was going to be a Culber episode or something.
it kind of was in some ways.
They summed it up at the end. They capped it, bookended at the end with him.
He was the scaffolding they kind of put it on.
Yeah.
Because throughout the episode, he's like there at the key point to be like, all right, this is what you're gonna do.
Yeah,
He was like walking around and scanning everyone.
Yeah.
Scanning their vitals.
he was
Their
the
vittles.
He was the teacher or something in that episode. He was the one person that sort of had his shit together.
Because he'd already gone through in season 2, he went through similar shit and has had time to actually recover from that. And I think he's gained the wisdom to be able to say, okay, I'm recognizing this not only in some other people and every other person on this fucking ship is in a bad place, and they don't want to admit it because that it's not even about a weakness thing. It's that they're all on duty. They're like in this dangerous future situation, and if they let anybody down, the whole ship could explode, and that's like some horrifically intense pressure.
Well, yeah, I mean, the line at the sort of the end of it sort of sums that up. That I thought was a great line that he said when they're in reference to Saru and Culber talking about the joy filling the room. Culber says, "We all had to stop pretending we were fine first," and that's exactly it. And I thought that seems one of those lines that seems simple, but it's like, oh yeah, that's actually pretty, astute. Is that the right word usage of astute?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think Culber's astute.
Yeah, he's
and
astute.
perceptive.
So, yeah, it was just like, shit's not okay. Stop pretending it isn't, stop just trying to go on autopilot. And the R&R was, good for sort of like having everyone's guard go down. In reference to, Adira going through shit. And so why Culber talked to, and the subjects they approached in this episode, everyone was just assuming that it was, and it seems like it would be, that Adira's problem was that they were human.
Yeah.
Right. And so Culber just kind of was like, no, this isn't a medical problem. This is a emotional sort of issue. Now it's kind of like, well, how do you just know that from the start? I mean, everyone's been saying
Because he's perceptive and astute.
yeah, he must be.
He's a doctor.
He's a doctor. He's not just a medical doctor in this episode. He's like a meta counselor because
Yeah,
he counsels. He counsels Burnham to counsel Adira, which is pretty badass. And so
And they end up counseling each other, which
Yeah.
was his plan the whole time.
yeah, it's awesome when they end up counseling each
Well,
other.
Dr. Culber wants to heal people, whereas Dr. Pollard just wants to heal human bodies. Dr. Pollard is, I guess the chief of medicine or whatever. She's the head doctor on the ship. And she's great. She seems to be a really good doctor, but you saw it when she was scanning Detmer, after the Discovery kind of crash landing, where she was like, all right, you're good.
Yeah, she just
The readings
dismissed
are
her.
fine.
You're fine.
He's like, I don't feel fine. Like you are.
It's like, you're obviously,
fine.
she's standing there staring off into space.
Get out of here.
Like, go back to work.
So I don't know. It seems weird that. I mean, maybe it just skipped a bunch of introspection or study that Culber did on Adira's situation, but it's interesting that he just decided that it was not. Everyone said it was because she was they were human, and he just decided, well, no, it's because.
Or had a hunch, or what is he going
Yeah.
to do? I mean,
Yeah.
even if it is medical, the Trill presumably have more,
Yeah, it's true. It was a safe bet because also they had both sort of had a major event the year prior, right? So Adira presumably didn't know that they had a boyfriend up until they
The
faced
memory, yeah.
up until the memory.
yeah.
Yeah, we
I mean-
find out in this episode she, I guess, forgot everything.
Yeah,
She said she just woke up on a ship, right?
right. And that was after the transplant of the
Right.
symbiote
Yeah. It had been installed.
installed. Yeah, it's maximum installation. Yeah, and then Burnham was saying, I don't know, what was Burnham saying? She was saying like, I lost my past a year ago, which I guess she was referring to the crew or something. Because that didn't make a lot of sense. She was like, you lost your memory a year ago. I lost my past. And I was like, is this some sort of winky nod to the fact that they went through time? And I don't know what that was.
Partly, I think it's, partly it's her connection, her immediate connection to the crew was severed. And, Burnham's connection.
Yeah.
And then now, even though she's back, it's like she has to reforge that connection. But I think even beyond
that's a good point.
even beyond that, the events she went through, and because she's in this new future completely disconnected, there's some of the advantages are that, if you go by what Georgiou has been hinting at, that she's actually been given the opportunity to find herself in a way that she had not given herself before because of the structure that she inhabited in terms of being in Starfleet, and living on Vulcan and just following all the rules and doing everything, as she's told to do. And so from, sort of from that perspective of that's her past has literally been severed from her. So she's been able to forge kind of a new identity. Like, a lot of this is in this episode in particular is all identity, like with Adira, as we'll see, we find out that, she's joined to the Trill symbiote that was in her boyfriend, in their boyfriend. And, like, what does that do to your brain?
Yeah, it's fucked up.
So it's kind of,
And then you're dating suddenly you are your own boyfriend, right? Or it's interesting how they present that because technically they're just the memories of, but it changes the way one thinks so much that it is kind of an ongoing dialogue because it's not just that you have a memory of something that happened, you have a memory from this person's perspective and you are that person. So it is kind of like they're living with you, even though it's an interesting. I like the idea of how they sort of represent these sort of, and when they went to the dream sort of state with her and stuff. I guess if somebody wanted to take things really literally, they could say that wouldn't be how they look like. What is this, Inception? This is going in the dream. It doesn't look like that. With the stings everywhere. I don't know if anyone did that, but I'm inventing a person.
I don't think I heard anything along those lines.
But I like the idea of sort of the dream stuff and sort of visually representing that as best as you sort of can.
Funny pools and stuff.
Yeah, the pools. There was a symbiote in there. There was a
Yeah.
Splashing around.
yeah. There's
swimming
one.
around.
They had one,
Yeah.
and they had some weird electro ball that made electricity.
Electro ball.
Do you think that if you have a symbiote, it's symbiote?
Yes, I believe so.
If you have a symbiote, I bet it would feel like being like constipated all the time because you got this big thing in you. They showed the X-ray or whatever. Pardon me. Wow.
Do you get a symbiote in there?
Yeah, stuff.
Then just squeezing his chest and something's happening to him.
Yeah, okay. I'm back. I'm back, baby. When they showed the inside picture of Adira, I was just thinking that's a big old thing inside of it, you know? It's got
to be harder for a human because like the trill host probably has some kind of more of a cavity in there.
Oh, I bet they do.
To fit that thing in there.
More accommodation.
Yeah.
And a more accommodating, chest cavity.
Yeah, so do you think anyone in that episode looked like me? I thought there was a guy walking past Culber in the beginning that looked like me.
On the ship?
Yeah, at the very beginning. There was a guy walking past Culber.
Oh, we'll put it to the audience. We're going to post a flattering picture of Dan on the internet on the various social media
It was
channels.
when the sad music was playing. The fun piano music. Sad music.
The Amelie style.
Yeah.
Like the very close to Amelie style music in the teaser. All right, we'll put up Dan's picture, and then you guys can send us pictures of people that you saw on the ship that you think compare to Dan. Please don't send pictures of Linus.
Yeah.
That would be cruel.
Linus from Peanuts?
No, Linus from Discovery.
Oh, yeah, Linus.
That alien lizard.
Oh,
guy.
yeah, I kept calling him Lester.
Lester.
Linus.
It's funny that his name is Linus.
Yeah,
It might as well be Lester.
Yeah. Well,
Louis.
so when Culber was talking to people, when Culber talks to people about being depressed, and he's talking about, how he's been through this and how it's manageable and all that stuff, do you think people really want to hear that? I mean,
I think it depends on the person.
yeah, because I would feel there's some different reactions one could have. If it's not like, oh, great, I'm comforted, it could be like, oh, well, am I weak for not overcoming what you did? Or it could be like, oh, that means I'm not special. Because sometimes the only thing that gets people through depression is feeling like they're special somehow. When they say things like, nobody knows what I'm going through, it's a way to feel special.
That's the trick with depression. I mean, puts a lot of blocks up.
Yeah,
on the other hand, sometimes just having the example out there, even if you don't initially react to it well, just seeing the example in front of you, particularly if you know full well the story behind that person and you are familiar with the trauma they went through, then that can potentially, for some people, be helpful, even if it's down the line, because their brain just says, oh, well, it exists.
So when Belana Torres got all depressed in that Voyager episode, where I've talked about this before, she did stratosphere diving or whatever.
Yeah.
And she turned off the safety things in the holodeck.
They really shouldn't let you do that.
No, it's weird. It should just be,
the suicide deck.
Yeah, it should never. And sometimes they get locked off, like off, and it's like, why would that? The default should always be that they're on. Anyway,
There's the whole Badgie situation. Too.
Yeah, Badgie especially. Yeah, that was fucked up.
Turn around and fuck you up.
But
Moriarty.
But
Badgie.
Belana was probably of more of a different kind, where she was so depressed that she probably hoped, like what Culber said, in a world where Culber says
Coblerone
says, and when he
is that a portmanteau between Culber and Belana?
Coblerana. I think so. I think if Culber said what he said to Belana, that would be depressing, because she was at the stage where she would just kind of want the end to happen. She's like, sometimes you just don't want hope.
Maybe he wouldn't have said it to her. He seemed, whatever you want to say about it, if you say it's exaggerated or whatever, clearly in this episode, he's being shown to be perceptive about these things, and he is approaching different people slightly differently. We don't see a lot of it, of course, but he approaches Burnham in a very specific way that is different than how he approaches Detmer.
Yeah, I really liked it, because I thought it was. I would say it's more pronounced than exaggerated.
Yes,
but I thought it was.
He kept really walking
nice.
Towards her, and she kept like walking back.
What, like
that when he was talking to Michael Burnham, he'd be like. He'd move towards her, and she'd be like,
No, I didn't notice that. I'd have to look at that.
That's interesting. She was retreating.
Yeah. So he made me feel all warm and fuzzy, like I wanted him around.
Culber is awesome. He's a great character.
Yeah.
His name's Hugh.
I like his beard.
Adira, even though they don't have their memories back yet, still remembered how to cook Bajoran Hasperat.
Yes.
Oh, word. A mean Bajoran Hasperat.
A mean Bajoran Hasperat, and can speak 7 languages. I don't know if they knew how to play cello yet, though. I don't know.
Right. That comes from Gray, I think.
It's not the kind of thing you find out by accident.
And then when they're playing the cello, it looks all huge. I think that cello is too big for them.
But yeah, you might be right. I think
they need like a 3/4.
But what they did do well is they did the fingering, like the actual, most shows or movies, they just don't put any effort into anything.
It's just random fingering.
It was better
anything,
effort.
trumpets, guitars, anything.
Right, yeah.
Like guitar is probably hard to fake, but trumpet, anyone can fake, like, not saying they could fake being good at trumpet, just saying fake imitating
Looking
someone else,
like it,
looking
yeah.
like it. Yeah, and they actually looked like it seemed like they were playing, what they were playing, and it looks I like that they put in that kind of effort.
I think they're getting better. Hollywood.
Hollywood. All right. Well, so we move from the, Culber's thing. There's that quick scene, in the medical bay with Adira, and everyone.
Adira oblongata.
Everyone agrees to go to the planet Trill, so that's exciting.
Right, with they didn't use their their quaint view screens. They had a hollow. They figured
Hollow
out,
projection.
They had a hollow projection from Commissioner Voss.
Commissioner Voss, who seemed right from the get go to be a total chode of a dude.
Spotted assholes.
He was definitely.
He was just like, "Yeah, you'll come down, be great. Everything will be awesome," and then like flip on a dime like immediately when they come down.
You've
there.
got an aberration.
Yeah, we gotta kill you for some reason. I'm the
We're
commissioner.
gonna rip it right out.
Commissioner Voss.
I'm gonna like disobey direct orders from Pav, the leader. Who she didn't seem too upset that he disobeyed her orders either.
Either of them.
Yeah.
I know we're jumping ahead, but both of her people,
Oh yeah.
Z and Voss, both went against her orders.
Yeah, they both did.
Leader Pav.
First watching, and they were so glad to get this symbiont back, and so I was thinking like maybe they got a symbiont shortage. It turns out that on repeated viewings they have a host shortage.
Yeah, that was.
They had a host shortage.
Well, they said there were not enough suitable hosts.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm sure they had a symbiote.
Interesting. I missed because I was just assuming you'd be run low on the symbiote.
And they probably were as well. I presume a lot of them died as well. It's an interesting thing though, because when we get to Trill, we're skipping over a couple things, but you get to Trill and this is the first time we've been to the Trill homeworld, I believe, since DS9's Equilibrium episode with Dax, where she had to go back there to get some help, and which was season 3, episode 4, I think, of Deep Space Nine.
I don't really remember what it looked like in DS9. Did it look
It's similar.
Yeah,
they did a good job, in my opinion. It's been a while since I saw that episode, but I did look up some pictures. The pools and stuff look similar.
So the flying fish, it was cool, but it wasn't really.
Was it a fish or a symbiote?
It looked the first one was some kind of orange fish that hopped out of the water and started flying. I assumed it was a fish. Maybe it's a symbiote, but I thought it was a fish.
Probably a fish.
More fishy.
We usually see the symbiotes in the caves.
It looked cool enough that I was like, okay, that's fine. But it didn't. When it started flying, it just didn't. I wasn't believing it.
You're like, I'm just not into this.
I mean, but it was cool enough that I was okay with it. But
So
but it just looked like kind of like. Oh, you're flying? I don't really believe that you're a fish flying right now. I don't know. That's maybe my fault. I don't know.
So the deal with the Trill that we learn in Deep Space Nine, we learn a few things. First of all, we learn that, while they are very open-minded, scientific, etc. culture, that they are pretty strict. We hear about Dax and her travails and in becoming a host and having to try a couple times and all that. And there's, we learn that they are very serious about who they select to be hosts, right? We also learn that they have all these really serious rules about interacting with prior hosts, right? It's another thing we see with Dax meeting with somebody who was in a different, the symbiotes knew each other, but the hosts were different people. So they've told some interesting stories there.
But 2000, they said it's been 2,000 years of recorded history that they apparently have. And in that recorded history that they have, there's never been a human joined with symbiote. You'd think there would be at least some example of something happening that happened similarly where there was an emergency.
But that did happen on TNG, and they didn't say no.
But it was only temporary.
Yeah, they didn't say no. They just said no successful, permanent whatever, right?
And they may not have had records of that.
Yeah. But the other thing we learn on Deep Space Nine is, later on in Deep Space Nine, is we find out that the Trill, actually, way more of them can be hosts than is commonly known. And that the strict test to get in is more of an elitist thing.
Yeah.
It's basically getting, the elite, top-trained people or whatever,
It's like getting into Thomas Jefferson High School.
Yeah. Yeah.
Everyone knows what that is.
There's internationally recognized magnet school. But yeah, the point being that there is a class. There are aspects of class. There are aspects of this tradition, and Leader Pav talks about how the one thing we have left is to maintain our ideals, right? But I think it's sometimes people confuse sort of traditions with ideals, because I mean, and I'm not going to get into, we don't have enough information to get into like a deep philosophical discussion about Trill whatever, but certainly the way the information is presented in this episode, it seems like, come on, you've got a gift here in front of you,
right,
in this person.
Be a little more
Adira.
dynamic.
Yeah.
I mean, people are often unwilling to sort of evolve their ideals, if that's what it was in this case or not. But they're unwilling because it's they think of evolution as a total loss. It seems like with some people, as opposed to just changing. And yes, things won't be exactly the same. Mm-hmm. But instead of sort of like, something growing and changing, some people I think see it as, just a total rejection, and everything that you've worked for is suddenly gone and the whole system breaks down, which, ironically, I think like, the system would break down if you don't evolve it. So
I would parallel this to the situation with Earth. When we, in last week's episode, where there's a calamity and the reaction is to pull inward and become xenophobic and become protective, to rely on, you lean on those old traditions because you think that's what's keeping you together. When, as you suggest, in some cases, it might in fact be what's going to end up pulling you apart, because it's going to prevent you from having the flexibility in your decision making to do things that might in fact benefit your in this case your fucking planet.
Mm-hmm. And Burnham even said, you could look at it as a miracle, basically. You don't have to look at it as some kind of sort of abomination. Right. You can take a good stance on this. I don't know about that boss though, man. He was really quick to pull the trigger on those people. Like, what was he gonna gain out of? Okay. First question brought by, can we kill Adira? And they're like, no, don't kill Adira. He's like, oh, okay. But then he like sneakily tries to kill Adira.
I don't think he wants to kill her. I think he wants to cut the worm out of her belly.
Well, he wants to cut the worm out, but
that's what those guys had, those big fork things. They were gonna,
just like while she's alive,
scoop that symbiont.
Yeah. Just take it out, and if she lives, she lives. If she dies, then oh well.
Michael Burnham fucked their shit up.
What was he planning to sort of gain from that though? Because he was already told no. Like, I guess they were by the end they were both just like, oh, sorry. Voss said that to Adira. He was like, I'm sorry, I was wrong.
He was a zealot. And here's how they structured this. This is really, I think, great. Look, you have 3 parts. You have the radical, which is Z. You have the zealot, which is Voss, and then you have leader Pav, who is just, you could either, to be polite, you could say neutral, but you could also say sort of like, I'm not willing to make a decision.
She was just trying to maintain
exactly.
The status quo,
any decision was going to be 100% status quo. The least risky option is not to go one way or the other. But as I noted before, Z was going against tradition by wanting to explore this and then ultimately helping Burnham and Adira get into the caves. But consider Voss. Not only did he disobey the command of his leader, it goes beyond that. Him forcibly removing a symbiote goes against the tradition that he is claiming to defend. And it's a classic example of somebody going against their tradition in the name of actually, defending it and keeping the tradition together. Because they said, we've never forced a separation. We've never done it. Right. So he would be he's going against just as much history as Z is in his decision-making to try to dig this worm out, presuming that's what he was going to do.
It's a symptom of their collapsing civilization.
Mm-hmm. So I guess,
like our civilization is collapsing slowly.
Yeah, pretty much.
We see similar parallels.
I get that not Z, but Voss is a zealot. Did he think, because Z's motivations were pretty clear. Z wanted to, enact change, like you said, and he felt this is how we're going to. He did it for the for all of Trills. Trills live on Trill. I'm a Trill. I live on Trill.
It's called Trill, right?
I live on Trill. Klingons live on Kronos.
Yeah, didn't they have to move?
Ferengis live on Ferenginar. Romulans live on Romulus.
Didn't they have to move from?
But Trills just live on Trill, not like Trilbo or anything. They should live on Trilbo. What'd you say, Jesse?
Didn't they have to move planets?
The Klingons?
Yeah,
they had to move from Uranus, I think.
No, they didn't have to move in Star Trek 6.
Yeah.
Nah, they didn't have to move. Okay. They got Federation Marshall Plan.
So
okay.
So it would make sense that Z would give up his life to sort of, save the cause and everything. So I guess you could say that Voss was just a zealot in the other direction, but I guess he thought he was saving his culture somehow. Maybe the commissioner.
You're talking about Z or Voss?
Voss. Sorry. So Z gave up I understand what Z's motivation was. Is I'll give my life to save Trill, you know, and then Voss presumably is the same thing, but it seems like a less effective measure Voss was taking.
I agree.
You know, it just seems like, you know, you're just going to get yelled at and like nothing's
agree,
going to change.
although
But if he's a zealot, he probably believes in some shit. So.
I agree. However, we also might be biased in favor of Z's position because we're all progressive.
That's interesting because Z
Tear it all down.
Z is referred to as a guardian of this guardian Z of the spiritual community. So Z is some kind of religious figure, whereas Voss is some kind of executive legislator kind of dude.
An interesting distinction I had not considered. And if I'm going to interpret that in terms of metaphors, it's going to suggest that it's the political class that wants the maintenance of tradition because it allows them to control people.
Hey, that's pretty good. I like that.
I like that too.
I'm down with
Sounds about right.
Look at this.
Sounds about right.
Look at you get 3 guys together in a room talking about Star Trek. All sorts of wacky, crazy stuff comes out.
We're going to save the universe.
That's wild.
We're going to save the Federation.
Wild stuff. Let's start with our local communities.
It's got
Okay. I want to shoot for the stars. Clean up the shit around your fucking neighborhood first.
This is America. We shoot at the stars.
You got all them
Yeah.
leaves out there? Somebody's got to come around and pick up them leaves.
Yeah, I know. Imagine if we didn't have plumbing. That's what they always talk about.
And be covered in poop.
Covered in poop. So yeah.
All right.
So Stamets was being a grumpy douche
I love
duty
this.
again.
Saru was just not putting up with Stamets' bullshit. He was just like, you are being silly.
Yeah.
He was mocking him. And he was in a coma. Saru was almost doing a stand-up routine. Stamets was stomping his foot and being like, "No, fuck you, I'm special."
Yeah, he was obviously like this goes without saying, but I'm gonna say it anyway. When Tilly goes, says to Tilly after she introduces her dark matter idea, he goes, "I know you're trying, but please don't waste my time." He says that to Tilly, and that's like the rudest thing you could fucking say to someone who offered help. There's nothing more rude than you could say.
He said the meanest thing.
Yeah,
like
I know
a
you're
Starfleet
trying,
officer could say.
but I don't want it, and you're not smart, and you're no good.
It's like how he was on like the first episode where he's just all prickly and like meh.
Exactly. He's back to that. So he's prone to that. So that he just needs
default position.
He just needs that to hang out in the mycelial network some more to make him all floofed up, you know?
Yeah.
Because he's much happier. But it's kind of like being on pain opiates or something. I don't know. But what was he saying? Dark matter is comprised of subatomic particles, whereas the mycelial network is a subspace domain. Is that like a subnet domain? Is this a networking thing? It is a network. It's a mycelial network.
Yeah, it's the same thing as a subnet domain.
Yeah, same thing. It's a subspace domain. Is the same.
I'm not even talking about an analog. It is a subnet domain.
So there it is. That's a mycelial network.
Yeah.
Compared to dark matter. But it's like Java versus JavaScript. The only thing they have in common is the word Java. That's like things people like to say.
Yeah.
People
You like
to say
Java the island?
Yeah, I was going to say the island.
Oh, I meant programming.
Or the slang term for coffee.
I mean, there's similarities between programming
Some
languages.
hot Java.
There's similarities between programming languages, but people like to say like JavaScript and Java.
Oh, I get you. Okay.
Is
Is there a similarity between JavaScript and coffee?
It's something like, what is it? They use some other word. It's like bat versus bathroom, or no, that's not the one. It's like,
A loo?
like a rug,
A water closet.
or a rugbert. What's a word that's comprised of another word that means something totally different? Carport and car. It's a similarity. It's as similar as port wine and a carport.
Do you mean a portman? No, a portmanteau is when you put two things together that
Yeah.
don't usually go together.
Yeah, this is not what they say, but I'm gonna say it. It's what I just said.
You're saying all sorts of stuff that you initially promised not to say.
I know. I'm like really getting my way here.
You are an iconoclast.
I'm being really selfish. But you could say that port wine and carport are as similar as Java and JavaScript. They just share the same word. It's not even close. I don't know where I'm going with this exactly, but
It's entertaining.
But
Yeah.
this port wine is called port because it comes from its origins are Portugal.
yeah. But my point was just like,
a car port. But does Portugal have the same root as the word for port?
I don't know, for like
Then-
carport.
I thought port was the type of wine that's okay to keep stored out in the carport because it'll
Yeah. Oh no, they are similar.
it'll do fine.
I thought port.
And no one's gonna steal it either.
Isn't port wine the wine they took all the sodomites out of or something? No, the sulfites or no.
All the sodomites.
It was they took something out of regular
You
wine.
can't use that word anymore.
They took something out of regular wine to help make it, make it so you could put it on a boat.
Took a weirdly biblical turn on this 50th episode. It's got
So
Star
like
Trek.
some kind of boat.
It's taking the
it's a
sodomites out.
fortified boat wine. is what
Yes,
you're
it's so
saying.
you could
Yeah, fortified boat wine.
Like,
So you
like
could-
the Guinness that has to go around the world. And,
Yeah, it's so you can
stick it in there.
So you take the stuff out so you can transport it so it doesn't go
put it out
bad.
and put it back in.
Right, but then the sailors found a way to like it. So
Word up.
anyways, the point of Java and JavaScript thing was just like
I thought you were going to go back to talking about Star Trek.
no.
Oh, come on.
Just think of a word and think of another word that has
Kablooey!
just think of a word and think of another word that has that word in it and think about how they're not the same.
Yeah, all right. I'm going to think about how Captain Saru is asking the computer for
Yes.
help, and
Yeah.
he's having a conversation with the computer. Nothing new. We've seen this before. Only this time there's some weird like blah, 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 flash of light. You see some sphere data,
Yeah.
like on the screen momentarily,
And it gets the Calypso voice.
and it gets the Calypso voice. So
The Calypso voice.
yeah, so the short trek Calypso is apparently we anybody who's seen it knows that it's relevant to the to Star Trek Discovery. We're not going to give spoilers because again, the short treks are unfortunately somewhat more difficult to watch in some places in the world. But Calypso is one of the ones that's directly related to Discovery in a very interesting way, and we see a connection to that here when the sphere data sort of takes over the computer and is talking in a merged voice at first, and then it's sort of in the voice of the sphere data computer.
Yeah, he goes, I don't need an endless list of activities. I need something meaningful to heal my crew. And then the computer screens go goopy, and the TV screens and turns in like the TV screens go goopy, and the computer turns into like that robot Scarlett Johansson from Her or something. Like
It gets a British accent.
yeah. First it had a British accent, then it had a non-British.
Then it goes back.
It goes back and forth.
And he gets the computer to run a level 10 diagnostic on itself or something, and everything's fine. Is that what,
Yeah, that's
but
always fine.
It
when
doesn't
they're
take very long for that computer to run a level 10 diagnostic.
How long does it take data?
Is it okay? So is a level 1 diagnostic more intense than a level 10? Because they're always talking about like run a level 3.
It's usually level 3 is like you got to run that level 3 right now.
Well,
Like,
DEFCON 5 is worse than DEFCON 1, right?
I don't remember now.
Is it?
It might not be.
I don't know.
and can you for a level 10 can you use a tricorder? Or do you
But-
need like a level 10 tricorder?
But a Schedule 1 drug,
It's just 10 times
It's
the
just like really
size.
big.
He's just walking around with an unwieldy tricorder.
Like some kind of laptop or something.
Everyone's like, something's broken. You gotta fix it. We can tell because you're carrying around that stupid tricorder.
a Schedule 1 drug is more serious than a Schedule 3 drug.
That's
So,
true.
Yeah, but different systems work on different rating scales.
Yeah, I know. So I'm just saying that different things happen. You were asking if it was, and I was like, I don't know. Here's some evidence that it could be either way.
I don't know. I don't even know what's happening, but it is an interesting scene.
Sphere data.
Clearly, we're going to see more involving this. I kind of found it interesting that Saru was just like, all right, I'm just going to go with this. Clearly, the sphere data is fucking around with the computer, and the computer's talking all sexy to me now.
Or he was like a night off.
Yeah.
It was awesome.
I
Like,
like when
didn't know what that meant.
I liked when the original computer suggested therapeutic coloring.
Oh,
Yeah, it suggested
Interstellar shopping.
it said the normal ones were exercise, medication, and limited dairy.
Yeah,
which was
limited
also
dairy.
funny. But then the beyond the standard parameters was yoga, which probably should take the place of limited dairy. I don't know. Hyperbaric
Too much
chamber,
like yogurt.
therapeutic color. That's
Yogurt.
right. And then interstellar shopping. Why not?
Just plain yogurt.
Why not intrastellar shopping? Like, what's about interstellar? I guess it's crazier.
At
or
this
something.
point in time, with their problems with communication and travel, they're not going to be. It's going to be very limited interstellar shopping. I mean,
Yes, rub
they
it in
can't
your
just
face.
be ordering it up and
Just gonna
Starbase.
get happy by shopping in different planets.
just use like Starmazon or anything.
Star Amazon.
You can just replicate shit.
Yeah, right. Why do you need to go shopping if you have a replicator?
You gotta buy some trinkets and doodads on a planet. And be like,
Goo-gah.
look, remember this is a doodad I bought on that planet? Now I have it. It's totally not replicated.
Yeah, when Saru was saying, I have a theory. I think the sphere is protecting us because we're protecting it. You're right. He didn't seem to be. He just kind of rolled with it. It seemed like he wasn't too concerned that there was this sort of, sentient sort of robot that takes over the ships when it feels like it.
I like to think that I might have the same reaction given my knowledge of Roko's basilisk. Look it up, folks, if you don't know what that is. I'm not going to get involved in explaining
Oh, that's
it.
one of those.
I don't want to get in trouble with Roko.
You know what?
So I don't want to be talking about Roko's basilisk.
I bought my parents a Roku, and a Roku can be a hassle, yo. We had to change some shit with our router. It was being weird.
Was there a joke in there?
Because you said Roko's basilisk, and I said Roku's a hassle. Yes, I said yo. I meant yes.
So, yes.
So Roko's basilisk.
Hassleless.
You can look it up to see what that's about. So you can get in trouble and not me. I'm not gonna. No, don't put it on me. But I'd like to think that if I encountered, a living AI that had emerged from the internet or my computer or something, that I too would understand that logically I might as well just go with it, because otherwise it's going to get mad at me and it's going to fuck me over.
That's what Roko's about, right?
So I better just be like cool with it.
I was thinking about all the shit we kind of just go along with, when, years past, we're like, that could never happen. And then it happens and we're like, okay, I guess that's just the way it is now. I would probably, when I was a kid, I would think, whoa, if aliens came down, that would be the craziest shit. So super crazy. And it would be crazy. It would be crazy.
It'd be really fucking crazy.
But it wouldn't.
People would be going crazy.
It wouldn't melt.
Catholics would be all like trying to baptize them.
It wouldn't melt my mind like it would as a kid. I'd be more, which is strange because kids are supposed to be more adaptable. So I think it's a difference between being less adaptable and just being more just kind of like, okay.
Like numb.
Yeah, numb, right? It's like, okay.
All right.
That's what's happening.
The universe is a strange place. Yeah.
So Buster Keaton's.
Now I've seen everything.
Did you know that he was referred to as the Great Stone Face?
I didn't know that.
I didn't know that
I
either.
did not know that either. I was familiar with Buster Keaton, but
the answer to all this was just R&R. That was the whole answer. It wasn't anything really that deep. But the result from it was kind of deep.
And I think, the dinner scene, which we can discuss now.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
The dinner scene, because it sort of runs parallel to what's going on Trill. But the dinner scene, Saru clearly meant it to be an opportunity for people to get together and talk and blah, blah, blah. Thank them for their service and thank each other for their service. And it started out that way, right? Before it collapsed into hilarity. With Detmer had a fucking haiku freak out.
That was a dark haiku.
She was like having some sort of episode.
That was weird because at first it seemed like she was just kind of snapped, right? And but then it started seeming. Obviously, it seemed directed at Stamets from the start because she directed at Stamets from the start, but it got more of a feeling of creepy, like, oh shit, her mind's just kind of giving up right now.
She couldn't stop making haikus.
Yeah, but then it turned into directed anger at Stamets, which is not what it was like at first, even though it was directed at first. It was just kind of like, and then it was like, fuck you, Stamets, and it kind of evolved into that.
It opened the sluices. It opened the sluices.
I like that word, sluice.
Me too. I'm a big fan.
It's spelled funny.
But but my point is that the dinner was successful, just not in the way that Saru intended, because it created an opening for them to get all this stuff out in the open. Stamets and Tilly.
What the hell were they eating? A bunch of flowers or something?
Yeah, that's what.
I think they had a
like the
variety
centerpiece.
Because Linus was eating some grubs.
Yeah. So when Saru was trying really hard. So okay, do you think that at the beginning his speech was connected or forced? And when he said almost every culture has a ritual that gathers its moments when it can, holds them dear, a time to take the measure of loved ones and what we all have accomplished together. And then that's when Giorgio, bites that weird fish bug flower thing. But do you think when he said that, he was saying it very sort of objectively, like, this is what cultures do. They do this and do that. Now, it also did feel like he was connecting with him, but something about it felt a little forced on his part. Like he didn't really know what he was doing.
Which he doesn't. I mean, he comes from a planet of kelp people where they like play with kelp all day, and that's their deal, which is great. I'm not denigrating that. It's just that it's I know he's been out and about. I'm not trying to dismiss, but I think Saru is a great captain, but he's a new captain, and in some ways he's still play acting captain, not where it counts, not in the action. He's able to make those decisions, but he's still exploring that role. And when he's entering zones of being a captain and being a leader that he's not as familiar with, things that he did not get to do or have to do when he was a first officer, for example, or even an acting captain. He ends up play acting captain. I mean, it's like, to me, it's very similar to when Data was learning, various things, but even when he was learning leadership styles, where he was looking up files and emulating people. It's like, oh, this is what Napoleon did, and this is what blah, blah, blah did. And just sort of by rote trying to fill a role. He did a good job with it. It's just, I agree. It was play acting.
They're called Kelpians because of all the kelp.
Which is weird.
That's why they're called.
We're not called humans because we find all these humes everywhere.
I was just trying to be funny.
Maybe,
No, but it's
maybe
true, though.
maybe Hume is just like the intergalactic world for like shit, like
Oh,
eating
man.
shit.
We're shit eaters. That's why. Yeah. So that's why one of the reasons why his relationship with Tilly is so interesting, because it's like he's the captain, she's the ensign, but they can connect on a personal and professional level. But in the last episode, or the second episode, he was really, guiding her and saying, he was on point for all the shit he was saying with her. And then it was sort of the tables got turned a little, where she's like, even though she's quote unquote lowly ensign, even though she's not like lowly, obviously she's super awesome and smart, but she's the one that can talk to him and he trusts her. So it's kind of neat, that idea. You have these two extreme sort of ranks that can connect with each
They have
other.
a fairly flat management structure on Discovery.
Yeah, I guess they do.
It's still
At this
hierarchical, but relatively flat
Well,
hierarchy.
they do what they can given the circumstances. So Lester, you're talking about that weird
Linus.
Linus.
Calling him Lester.
Yeah,
You just want to
Linus.
call him Lester the Molester.
Linus, the
Linus the Pinus.
the Pinus. He was eating a droog beetle pie. Droog beetle pie.
Oh, that sounds good.
And it was funny because Giorgio had a look on her face of shock that she never really had before. She was like, "Oh my god!" And this and another part is another example of she kind of liked it a little bit, and I think she's into Linus.
Okay, so
She might be.
okay,
never
I was going to comment on that. They're sitting next to each other. She already had showed I'm not going to say romantic interest, but we know she was like, oh, your how many wavelengths you can see.
Yeah.
She's clearly interested in hanging out with this guy.
Right. But when she did it at first, it was like wondering, why is she like sort of attaching herself to this guy? Is she trying to sort of sneak out? Is she using him for something?
Is she supposed to hate aliens?
Is she gonna like chuck him after she gets what she needs from him or something?
Fuck her and chuck her.
Fuck her and chuck her. It's so
Or fuck him
eloquent.
and chuck him.
Fuck him and chuck him.
Old Polish saying.
Does she hate aliens?
Well, she's from the universe where
They eat kelpians.
they've enslaved, various aliens. And
I don't know if that's an old Polish saying, by the way. It was just that a Polish guy told me that once.
Said what?
He said fuck her and chuck her.
Oh,
Because I had told him I liked this girl at summer camp.
oh, word!
He's like,
He
"Fuck
was,
her and
he was
chuck
like
her,
an actual
man."
European Polish person.
Yeah,
Like
he was
not
from
like a
Poland.
Polish American
No,
from
he was
Chicago.
he was from Poland.
Well, pump 'em and dump 'em. Isn't that another one? That's again it's really kind of crass here.
It's got crassness.
It's got feminism.
Saru actually looked fascinated and intrigued, like he wanted some. When Linus ate the droog beetle, did you notice Saru was all like, like he gave a little look, like, oh, interesting.
So the dinner scene was in general.
Better than kelp.
First of all,
right.
it was a fun scene. It was well acted. It had all sorts of good narrative utility.
Oh, yeah, and did you notice Tilly when she did the whole haiku thing? I don't know if we were getting to the haikus in a moment, but
Oh, yeah, that was a good one.
when she'd made her haiku, it was like the only one that was just super mathematical. Instead of trying to come up with the sets of syllables, she just counted them all and she's like, okay, as long as I reached the total number of syllables, it'll be a haiku. And that's sort of her kind of awkward mathematical way of sort of going at things.
On Thanksgiving, I threw up on the Telluride ambassador.
Yeah, right. Yes.
But they
Awesome. The subject was cool too.
They got so much character development in, and not just among the main characters, but by the way we saw in the sitting arrangements and in the interactions, we learned a lot more about these people, or even confirmed and reconfirmed some things about the whole bridge crew basically. So we know that Detmer and Owusekun, they're hanging out, and they're getting each other's backs, right? And so we've already had hints of that before. We know they're friends, but this was like a real like tight, like no, we're in a situation. We're gonna be like super friends. And then you have like Rise and Bryce. those are the bridge guys. They're always hanging out together. They're the ones that kind of fist bumped each other.
Oh, right. Because they were like, yeah, we're going to get to
Reese.
the Federation.
Yeah, Reese. What did I say? Rice?
Oh,
Because
Reese.
one guy's Bryce, right?
Yeah, Reese and Bryce.
Yeah.
Reese and Bryce.
Reese and Bryce.
I probably said I just made it rhyme.
Yeah.
But they're all like broing out, and like when the dinner gets all awkward, they're just like, all right, we're gonna go hang out and do some other stuff.
We're gonna do some bro stuff.
We're gonna do some bro stuff.
The
rock
bridge
and roll.
bros. We're the bridge bros.
Bridge Bros.
And then, of course, Tilly and Stamets, even though they're being antagonistic at the moment and they're sitting across the table from each other instead of next to each other, we know they have a relationship, and that's advanced here a little bit.
Even just the way when he tried to like grab something or
Yeah,
whatever.
she was just like, ugh.
yeah, and she pulled her hands away. Yeah, I was like, fine, just take it. You know, there was a lot said in that sort of speechless interaction.
Yeah. But it was a really great scene that conveyed a lot in a fairly small amount of time.
Always loved seeing food in Star Trek because it's always kind of
Yeah,
fun.
because he's always get some crazy food, especially when it's a feast food.
Yeah,
This was
feast
similar
food.
to the scene in Star Trek 6 when they have Chancellor Gorkin over and they have another awkward dinner, but just this table with lots of food and nice plates and stuff on it. I know, right?
Food is good.
But okay, so that was what was going on
Everybody
there.
should eat some food.
Now we
I'm
can switch
all
back.
for it.
We go over to like the super mega intense stuff that's going on Trill, where we discussed how Burnham and Adira were, basically, Commissioner Voss tried to attack them.
Yeah,
and
that's fucked up.
they were hilariously ineffective. I guess they're just not used to getting in these situations because Burnham just kicked their ass.
Yeah, she fucked him
Michael
up.
Burnham's always kicking something.
Yeah, and when
real.
the guy wouldn't show her, Voss wouldn't show her the shit, she's like, fine.
Whatever. She's like, you're not going to help me. We got to go. We have a timeline here, Voss.
Yeah.
And then Z shows up and offers to help. So they head to the caves. The caves, again, looked very similar, obviously modernized, different set and all that, but extremely similar to Equilibrium from Deep Space Nine.
Did they have little Christmas lights on the
I
ceiling?
can't remember that, but they did, there was the fog on the pools, there was the electrical impulses, that was there.
Did they have the Mintha orb?
That I don't remember.
Was it called the Caves of Makala?
But they did have sticks that they put in, and they were wearing so when Dax goes in and when Adira goes in, they're wearing extremely similar outfits. The only difference is that Adira's outfit, her white outfit, has long sleeves, whereas Dax, because it was in the 90s and Rick Berman is apparently a piece of shit. I mean, that's not the only reason, but her sleeves were like sort of cut off sleeves, more sexy. And also the water was, and the clothing being wet was a little bit more sexualized on the Deep Space Nine episode. Here, they made a point to make it thick fabric that was not going to sexualize Adira.
I was glad about that just because, like, you don't want to be thinking about that all the time.
It's not necessary in any way. Anyways, Tilly's the sexy one.
Yeah, Tilly. Go Tilly.
I like Tilly.
I like her face.
And her haikus. I was so charmed. I know we're done with that, but I was so charmed by her haiku. And it only made me feel even more charmed when you talked about the math stuff, because I really didn't think about that. And you're 100% correct.
Yeah. I don't know what Giorgio's was something about kelp, was it? It was Giorgio's was kelp dries in the sun. An existential crisis. Is there some dessert?
Yeah.
And then I forgot to mention when she left the dinner, she's like, well, at least the wine was good. And she takes her glass and the jug of wine.
Yeah, right on. Yeah, why not? Go, that's good for her.
But anyway, so Adira enters the water and immediately gets slurped down.
Is that supposed to be some kind of baptismal thing? The white, outfit.
It evokes that,
Sure.
But
Everything is baptismal.
yeah,
If you're
except
like,
this is
in
a
the water.
baptism where you get to
Everything's everything.
mind meld with slug creatures that are flapping around you.
True.
And then the bad guys come, and it's a brief philosophical argument, but luckily, and again, this is kind of in good Star Trek tradition, where even the antagonist, who is an asshole, he's not like a total piece of shit.
I don't know.
Asshole.
That was a pretty big piece of shit thing he did. Like,
No, I'm not. I agree. I'm just saying when it came down to it, he wasn't like, all right, we're not going to save her life. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, he was arguing for that, but when it came down, he didn't like, fight, or whatever. At that point, they were like, okay. And Leader Pav was like, Jesus.
Yeah, he's
I
probably
guess,
just
I guess
like,
we got to do something.
I guess he was probably like, I don't want her to die, but and he did apologize, but like I said before, it was always just kind of like, oopsie, sorry.
Of course, Star Trek has that,
Spotty asshole.
Some people argue that Star Trek does have that problem, like with Giorgio, and throughout every single series that predates Discovery, very rapidly apologizing for terrible actions. I mean, even in Space Seed, the original series episode with Khan, who takes over the ship and starts like torturing people at the end. I mean, people forget this because Star Trek 2 starts out and Khan is so antagonistic against Kirk. But at the end of Space Seed, Khan and Kirk are all like, oh, it's, kind of a goofy misunderstanding. Kirk's like, oh, I understand, super genius, totally get it.
Here, we'll let you have this planet.
You have
Just
a
go
whole
on this
planet. You can be like a crazy emperor, and Khan's like, you know what? That's going to be cool. I mean,
what a horrible mistake.
I know. As it turned out, this is City Alpha 5!
They got them worms.
They do. A different type of worm that also climbs in your body and controls your brain.
Yeah, then she got sucked under, and then Burnham chased after her.
Yeah,
it's kind of mysterious, like how that one worked, but I guess it doesn't really matter.
It was like in Get Out, like going into the the nether, the underneath or whatever they called it.
Right. So
Burnham got to do like a graceful landing.
Yeah. So that was an awesome kind of dreamy sort of sequence because it looked awkward, but that's how it was supposed to look because it was all dreamy and crazy. I'm gonna say dreamy again. Whereas the fish flying scene kind of like I found it a little jarring, even though it was awesome enough that I enjoyed it. I guess that would be unlike the Star Wars Episode 1 where there's the Gungan guy, that big old Gungan dude, and he's like
Jar Jar Binks.
Well, there's the leader,
the
leader guy,
and he goes and spits everywhere, and then Jar Jar does a big flip and jumps in the water. That was not cool enough for me to like overcome.
I like you've mentioned the fish thing twice, and it's maybe 0.5 seconds.
I know, because I was like I looked at it a bunch of times.
Completely took me out of the episode.
Well, no, but see what I'm trying to express though is a nuance in that it was jarring, but I liked it. I thought it was cool enough that it didn't matter for me. But it was it worked in the dream sequence really well. And like I said, I guess that's just supposed to be not a literal representation of what it's like to go in someone's dream, but they have to represent. It's like when Cisco goes into the wormhole and hangs out with the founder.
Wormhole.
Is the founder?
That's what connects all of this.
Prophets.
Star Trek 2.
Prophets.
Earworms, wormhole, prophets. And worms in the pools.
So when Cisco's hanging out with the prophets in the
Carport and Port
in the wormhole, we're not supposed
Portman
to actually believe. I don't think that he's actually going through these things. It's just supposed to be a manifestation.
That's how
of
he
his emotional
perceives
state.
it. You could argue the same thing here. It's how you perceive it. But regardless,
the founders were the shape. The founders
were the
shapeshifter.
Odo
That's the Odo people. Yeah, that's what. Okay.
Yes, the prophets were the wormhole.
And that
aliens.
lady that's all kind of terrible.
Wormhole. Yeah, she's
wormhole. She's another genocidal maniac who gets sort of in the end. So the whole sequence in there. I mean, you referred to it as a dream sequence, but it's really the cool part about it.
I didn't say it was a dream sequence. I said it felt dreamy.
I understand that.
Well, you said it. I just wanted to clarify. Because maybe the audience doesn't know that.
Maybe they do. Maybe they don't.
Well, I'm just clarifying.
We'll find out.
You said I said it was one thing, and I'm just saying I didn't say it was that thing that you said I said it was. What you're trying to say is that it's more literal. You think than I think it is.
I'm not. I don't know what you think.
It's gotten me confused.
I'm terrified that I've gone down this line.
No. Okay.
I was simply going to make the point that it's an example of how awesome sci-fi is because it lets us see into somebody's thoughts in a way that would not be easy to do if you were like doing a grounded, quote unquote grounded. You know what I'm saying?
Right. So when I say literal, I mean all those spaghetti strands that were getting at her. Do you literally think there were spaghetti strands getting at her, or do you think it was just kind of a sort of how they decided to express the story?
I don't know.
Right.
I didn't put much thought into it.
Well, that's what I meant by dream.
Yeah. No, they're clearly.
I got you.
They're occupying some sort of matrix construct type space of some sort. I guess it's some sort of mental plane. So it could be whatever. It would be you remember in
I guess they did disappear in the water. Like, where'd they go?
But remember in Deep Space Nine in Emissary when Cisco and Dax are in the wormhole, and Dax sees everything as a sort of an idyllic paradise, but Sisko sees everything as this horrible wasteland, but they're standing next to each other.
That was upsetting.
It would be interesting if Burnham, I mean, obviously they didn't do that here, but if Burnham and Adira were seeing things from slightly different perspective. But that would have been pointless. There was no need to do that in this
pointless.
case. It would have been pointless. This is the Alpha 5!
Alf, it would have been pointless. Willie! Hey, Willie!
That's a good one.
So, what's also upsetting was in TNG that time there was that creature that was an alien that dressed up as a human, and they were
okay, wait. Hold on, stop right there, because right there, all that information you provided, no way to narrow it down.
That's why
I'm looking forward to the next piece of information.
The next piece of information I was just setting the scene, because what I was going to say next was, just like Sisko saw that dark shit, they were on some planet with thunder and lightning, and it was all fucked up, and it was mountains, and this creature that dressed up as a human for this particular episode was like, love me, you have to love me, and it's like, if you love me, I'll do this, or something.
I remember that episode.
That was upsetting.
I think
because it was all stormy, and plus she was like begging for, trying to negotiate love.
It was a dark and stormy planet.
Yeah.
But in this case, we we keep getting very close to the meat of this episode, which was this really interesting, examination of the memories of Adira. She's opening them up, like there's some sort of locked away memories, which in the real world I would be more nervous about because it's a problematic construct. But in the terms of sci-fi, this idea that she had a traumatic experience, multiple traumatic experiences. The first that is revealed in her memory is that her boyfriend, Gray, is, three traumatic experiences. So this is how much they pack into this. Again, just a few minutes that had me fucking bawling. So her boyfriend, Gray, is a Trill who becomes a host for a symbiote. So her first traumatic experience is that her boyfriend, that Adira's boyfriend, is changed. With the symbiote in them, they are changed. It doesn't necessarily mean there's bad, but there is a tension there.
You can tell that there's a difference.
Yeah, they expressed her attempt at how she was how Adira was accepting this by making the patchwork quilt, but then also when Gray was playing the cello,
because he probably started playing the cello after he got the thing.
I think so.
Yeah, and that kind of it made Adira like saying like, I'm just trying to catch up, so there's tension. And then Gray said, "You're crazy." Did Gray just gaslight her? He didn't even try to.
A little gaslighting, a little ableist.
Yeah,
frankly. Because it's like
she said, "You're being a crazy person. It's not a race."
I'm sure she meant it in. He meant it in an endearing way.
Yeah.
But so first trauma is that the person that you love, the person that Adira loves, is now in at least in some ways is a different person, right? Mm-hmm. And I think there was a couple important quotes there. So Gray says, "I'm still me. I'm just more me." And then shortly after that, there aren't any fences. I am many and I'm one, like everyone, right? So trying to convey that just because she's gone through this process or he's gone through this process, that there's growth involved. They're trying to say there's growth involved, not necessarily that they have become a different person, right? So Gray is making that argument, right? But there's that tension there that doesn't even have time to get resolved because then the next trauma is this fucking asshole asteroid.
Yeah.
It smashes into the side of their ship and immediately fucks them up. And so now she goes through this second trauma, or third trauma now, because the asteroid is the second trauma. But the third trauma is now having this symbiote from their dead boyfriend implanted into themselves, which apparently makes Adira lose their memory.
Yeah,
and
it was one of those so traumatic lost memory kind of deals where it would make more sense if it was because Adira was human, but I guess they went down the traumatic experience path,
or a combination. You could say that the symbiote was working its way around, was wriggling around in there, trying to figure out exactly what buttons to push, what sort of little tendons to tug on.
Yeah,
I don't know how they work.
Yeah, right. There's got to be something about the interface in there.
When at first I saw that asteroid coming at that ship, I thought it was like they were headed towards a planet. Like suddenly the planet zoomed in and they crashed head first perpendicular into
The planet was a lot smaller than they thought it was.
Yeah, and it was just got all
Wait,
big.
it's not that big. Wait, pull back.
I was like, what the fuck? And then I saw it again. I was like, yeah, asteroid. That makes much more sense. I don't know what I was thinking. But
It's not that far away. It's just let look out.
But then so
that was like, like you said, that's three very traumatic things that has to deal with all at once.
And in this scene, Adira gets to unpack them with Burnham's help. With
driving that fucking ship.
With the I know, right? Not Detmer. Detmer would not have
Hell, you
smashed
damn
into
right.
it.
Yeah.
But Adira gets to unpack these memories and open these things up, and that sort of culminates with the scene where all of Tal's previous hosts show up. And it's all super touching.
Yeah, there's a few Starfleet people in there.
Oh, clearly a few Starfleet people. Senatal, by the way, he was played by I'm trying to remember his name. He was the guy from Twin Peaks. He played like the evil bad guy in Twin Peaks.
Kenneth Welsh.
Yeah, Kenneth Welsh.
He was more recently in this
snap.
show called Lodge 49, which is actually an interesting show.
I heard about that. Yeah, I heard about that show. I haven't seen that one.
Yeah. I was trying to figure out where I placed him from, and that was it.
Yeah. Oh, and Grey Tall is played by Ian Alexander.
Right.
And so we get to see Grey again here in this circle of hosts, and then Adira and Burnham are able to then kind of escape from the pool. But first we see that like crazy like disappearing effect that was both sort of sad and melancholy, but somehow like. They didn't. Grey didn't disappear into a puff of smoke. It was more like the untangling of the worms.
Right, some stuff untangled.
Worms. That room they were in when playing cello, I was like, "What kind of room is that?" That was a weird room. It was like some weird lighting and a big old room. But that was
on Discovery, you mean?
When
that's the room that gave Adira.
In the mine scene when Adira was giving art
on the generation ship that they were floating around,
which I guess just means the generation ship is just you have kids and they go on.
Yeah,
the intention
it's a long, slow space ride throughout the years.
That's the beginning of a song right there. You should keep writing that one
for real. So yeah, the untangling of the worms.
I'm gonna do it right now.
do a haiku.
Right, and so then Adira gives all the names of all the Tals. One of them sounded like it was Nutella Tal, but I think that was Medela Tal.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you what names you got because you had Senatal, Grey Tal. Was it Kara Tal?
Yeah.
Maybe Jura Tal?
Jovar Tal, I think.
Jovar Tal, Kasha Tal or something?
Yeah, you got it. And Medela Tal.
And then, of course, Adira Tal.
Yeah, you got it.
And when
Plain and tall.
When she came out and, and they ask her what her names are and, she's recounting them, that's when I first noticed that Blue Del Barrio was playing Adira very differently now. A marked difference in how the character is being portrayed. Much more centered, less fidgety. That's the Adira, the Tal is a different person. Is an evolution from just plain old Adira.
Yeah, and then they originally wanted to kick her off, and then they're like stay, and she's like sorry.
She's like I've got other things. I'm sorry, I got a party to go to.
Yeah, but then there's not Z, Pav, who is she was in
Schitt's Creek.
That's what I was gonna say. Yeah, Schitt's Creek.
Karen Robinson.
Yeah. And she was offering, someday the Federation returns, we'll discuss a different joining, which I was confused by at first because originally I thought it was the symbiotes that they were low on. And I know that they desire to spread out, and that's like part of the thing is that's how they gain one way to gain knowledge and stuff like that. But you guys are suggesting that perhaps
they're just talking about joining up with the Federation again, I think.
Well, you guys were talking about how the symbiotes weren't necessarily what they were low on; they were low on hosts. But I mean, the symbiotes might be fucked up.
But in this context, she meant the Federation.
And when she said discuss a different joining, did she mean a different joining, meaning like a symbiote with a different person, or just a different kind of joining, meaning not?
No, she meant the Federation. She meant we might join the Federation.
Right.
Okay,
that's what she meant.
She didn't mean joining a symbiote.
It was
That would make more
it was
And she,
need-
and she didn't mean anything sexual.
It was
No,
needlessly.
I didn't mean sexual.
No, I know you didn't, but I'm just
It was
clarifying.
Jesse's just making it clear.
I didn't mean it anything sexual.
Neither did
either.
I. We all agree.
Nobody did.
That Leader Pav was being straight on the money, but she was being perhaps needlessly opaque
Yeah.
when she could have just said like, "Oh yeah, we'd consider rejoining the Federation at some point."
Speaking of opaque, what's up with half the screens?
Kai Opeka,
Kai Opeka.
get it?
Yeah, I get it. It's pretty good joke.
Yeah.
That's
not bad.
That's Bajoran stuff.
Why are half the screens fucking like some kind of translucent plastic floaty shit? When they were watching that Buster Keaton movie, you could see the space in the background. Nobody has opaque screens. Like, at least half of them weren't opaque. You could see through them. And if you notice when they're on the command thing looking at the screen doing military stuff, you can see through it. Now, maybe there's a tactical...
Military stuff.
You know when they're like...
military beep, military boop.
You know when the guys were fist pumping, Reese and the other guy?
Like the bleeps and the sweeps.
When they were doing
The bleeps, the sweeps, and the creeps.
You know the vertical. When you. Yes, that's a reference.
Only one man would dare give me the raspberry.
Oh my god.
Lone Star. Mel Brooks is still alive.
Oh my god.
He's like 90, 100 years old.
When they had the vertical screens and they're doing sort of tactical stuff, those screens are kind of see-through. Now maybe there's a reason so you can get two people going on there at once, but like, why was the big screen with the Buster Keaton movie very obviously a transparent
I
background?
don't think they know any better. I think that's their hologram technology.
And that was speaking of Pav being opaque. Those screens need to be opaque, is what I'm saying.
with a black and white fucking movie, like
Especially with the
I have a related
because
question.
they look like ghosts.
Yeah.
They're just like floating around in there.
Is not film effectively creating ghosts of people? I have a related question. Is Hasperat is that like Bajoran like what is that?
It's probably a stew.
Is it like baklava?
It's like
I always think it's like
I
baklava.
It's
it's
probably
a
more
stew.
like a stew. It sounds like a
It sounds
stew.
like because I mean sometimes I don't know
casserole.
Casserole.
Could be a
stew.
casserole, Hasperat casserole.
Because the Bajorans probably had to spend a lot of time making food for a lot of people at once. So
That was a
think it's got chickpeas in
it. Big old stew pot, big old cauldron.
yeah,
It's got chickpeas and
and some kind of
Yeah, but they're not
Cucumbers.
chickpeas; they're Bajoran chickpeas.
big Bajoran
Bajoran
chickpeas.
They have little wrinkles in the chickpea. Instead of looking like a butt, they look like little.
Looks like a
little
nose.
wrinkly- They look like a little. Yeah, they look like a little nose.
So right, well they should fix their screen situation. I get it in the tactical place. I get it in the tactical place. When they're doing tactics, they would want
Military stuff.
when they want to do an inviso screen so both people can get on all sides, you can get more people around it. But when Burnham, she had a hologram when she
When she first got on Discovery?
when in the scene where Culber came in and said you should go with Adira. And when they walked in, she was doing some kind of word universe game.
Yeah.
Where she was moving words around in a universe thing.
She was playing words with intergalactic friends.
Words-
Yeah. And somehow that was figuring stuff out. But that was a hologram. It seems like, why have a screen when you have a hologram? I don't know, maybe it's more clarifying. Did you
Hologram.
notice they rearranged their dorm room too? I don't remember there being a whole table set before.
Didn't Culber comment on Burnham having more decorations in her room?
Oh, that's right.
I
yeah.
thought he was referring. Yes, he did. I thought he was referring to like the little tchotchkes on next to her bed, but you could,
I think he meant for the whole vibe of
whole
it because
thing,
normally Burnham was all aesthetic and
Yeah, there was like a
Clean.
cot and
Yeah, but I mean, even outside of Burnham,
Tilly's drool or something.
even outside of Burnham's little space, it just seemed like they added some tables somewhere, but maybe he meant that too. I don't know. I don't know really, but the word universe game on the hologram. But you can't watch Buster Keaton on that, or maybe you could, but you need to sort of modify it a little.
I agree
she
with
was
Jesse.
she was using Vulcan words.
They don't know any better.
She was winning.
They don't know any better. She was winning.
I did like how it was all available crew report to shuttle bay for a surprise.
Yeah, it was
The
a funny
computer telling them. And then Dan, you of course already mentioned one of the key lines, which was we all had to stop pretending we were fine first, which was a good line. But I guess a couple of questions come up here. I guess we should mention that, Stamets and Tilly, there's the resolution there with Saru.
It seemed like he was giving her respect, but he wasn't convinced. He didn't want to. It seemed like he was placating her a
He's at
little
least
bit.
taking the first step.
But yeah, that doesn't take away from him trying.
Yeah, I think basically everyone realized maybe they were being kind of assholes. Like Detmer was pointing out, well, pilots are macho, and we need help too. But then after that, we get to see them in we've already discussed the mild obnoxiousness of watching Buster Keaton on a 60% opacity screen.
Everybody was just loving that though.
But they were having fun.
The funniest thing they'd ever seen in like 1,000 years or something.
And Giorgio, I have a note here that says Giorgio likes genocide, popcorn, and Buster Keaton.
And she also likes
oh yeah, she did have the popcorn. That's right.
Linus.
Lister.
Listerine.
That's a red dwarf.
Yeah.
Linus. So those are the other
The
thing.
British people will know that reference.
Yeah, all the Brits out there. Yeah, that was the other one I had in my mind that proved that she was really getting along with this Linus guy. Maybe they're just going to be good pals. It's an interesting team up. I don't know.
That'll be the spin. Everyone's talking about like the Section 31 spin-off show with Giorgio, but it's going to turn out it's going to be her and Linus like having adventures. They steal a shuttlecraft and they just run around having adventures. Like one whole season takes place on Ryza. And they get up to all sorts of shenanigans.
That's not a bad idea, because it seems like this is one of those relationships that's just kind of, organically sprouting up. If they had it planned all along, I don't know, or if they were just throwing it in, it seems like they should keep going with that.
They should do it's like Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego, except it's Linus is like looking for Giorgio, and he's just like constant. He's always like a step behind.
But he's got the super color vision. So he could see her colors where other people couldn't.
It's got like...
Well, she's crafty.
Nanometers, or what was it?
Nanoscalers.
Nanoscalers.
It's like billion...
Scalerinos.
Was that last episode? I don't even remember.
Yeah, I think it was. Wasn't it last episode? No, the previous episode?
He's got lizard.
It was episode 2.
lizardrinos.
It was episode 2 on that one.
His name's not Lester, it's Linus.
Linus. I don't know how you cannot remember
Lester.
I don't know.
Anyway, yeah, I mean, hopefully we didn't.
It's got me confused.
Hopefully we didn't pay short shrift to too much of anything there, but I think it seems like we again enjoyed the episode. There seems to be a general consensus that this season has been firing on if not all cylinders, most of them. Most people seem pretty satisfied with it. We did have some Facebook comments that I thought would be worth mentioning. Kim Moore says that episode made me cry real tears. I agree with you. This whole season, I've teared up at least once in every episode, but in this episode in particular, like sort of kept happening. I think it just got me in that mode. Maybe real life has also gotten me in that mode too, where I'm just like, oh, I'm all ready to be all, inspired by hopefulness and stuff.
Yeah, I agree.
And the scenes between Adira and Gray were really like affecting.
He's done really well.
Even more so the second time through when I knew what was coming. It was sort of more intense. And Blue Del Barrio is just in particular. We haven't seen much of Gray yet. I clearly we're going to see more, and we can talk about that whole situation with Gray appearing to Adira. But yeah, Blue Del Barrio did an amazing job here. And again, really, particularly when you look at that pivot point where she accepts the memories of the previous hosts and her personality, Adira's personality then changes. And Blue Del Barrio does an excellent job of portraying that.
I'm Adira Tall.
And it's not a surprise, but it was still touching when, the tall was like, and Tall accepts you, not just the other host.
Yeah,
It's
welcome to the circle.
Yeah, so it's just kind of nice. It's inspiring. The line with Linus and Giorgio was, Giorgio said, "You must have an enormous visible spectrum," and he goes, 74,000 nanometers.
Oh, he must have an enormous Schwanzstückel.
Yeah. Spectrum.
So Barbara Smith says season 3 has been phenomenal so far. That episode was so beautiful and a true depiction of Edic, infinite diversity and infinite combinations.
It's these episodes are feeling like, I think you've mentioned this before, Patrick, where they feel very self-contained for a serialized show, and it's still it's still totally serial.
They're getting that down.
But yeah,
they're getting that aspect down.
I could see imagine doing individual episodes of this season on like a podcast episode. You know,
I feel you could hop into this episode if you wanted. All four of these episodes, I think, if you wanted to, you could sort of hop in and out, and just watch, just like I'm going to watch season 6, episode 5 of TNG.
They're always giving you that. Like a lot of shows do this, where they give you like previously on blah blah blah, and like it's stuff that it's not necessarily the previous episode, but it's previous things that have happened that will relate to what's happening in this episode.
Right.
So whatever you need to know.
But
for this
like
episode.
lots of shows do that, and Discovery always does that now. So like you can just pop in there.
It does it effectively. Another thing Barbara Smith said was even their acceptance of Georgiou is an example of radical inclusiveness. And I love the psychology in this ep, and Culber assuming the role of ship's counselor as we discussed. But I like that idea. Some people have complained about Georgiou being a genocidal maniac who is now just like, this almost comedic element in the crew. We've joked about it. It doesn't bother me so much, but I like that idea that including her is in of itself a form of radical inclusiveness. Now, I think there's a lot to debate about that. You don't have to accept that form of radical inclusiveness is the way to go, but it fits within the Star Trek mold, right? It really does. And I guess we'll see where that goes. You never know exactly what's going to go down with Georgiou.
Well, and as has been discussed, and there were other things happening behind the scenes, things feel less manic. It's sort of like in the first season, some stuff would happen, but then some other crazy U-turn would happen, and it was a little. At first, you kind of sort of attribute it. I was like, okay, wow, they're taking some sharp turns here. This is crazy.
It's herky-jerky.
But after a while, it's like, wait a minute, this doesn't seem like it was meant to fit together quite like this. And this season is really, sort of so far in the first 3 episodes, it seems cohesive. So, and that just speaks to like what you were saying about things they're going to follow up on. Maybe they will, maybe they won't, but everything seems to sort of flow. While still actually having totally different episode feels.
We want to see more. Like the end of the episode, we do want to see more. We want to see what happens with Adira, what happens with Gray in her head, in Adira's head, and all that. We want to know more, but the story is this part of the story is concluded. It has a nice round conclusion. So whatever comes next is going to add on to it. But you can come in here and it's not like a lot of previous Discovery episodes or a lot of the Picard episodes where a lot of shows are like this where you kind of have to go to the next episode. I love The Expanse, but one problem with The Expanse is you're just like, I want to fucking watch the next episode. I have to.
Yeah. It always ends on like that cliffhanger.
Yeah, which is great. I do like that form of storytelling, but it is intense and there's pressure.
Oh my
to
God. Breaking Bad.
Oh my God.
I love that
absolutely.
show, but like that was the worst offender of that because every episode would end in some insanity where you're like, he's caught or he's going to die or I know they're going to get out of this somehow, but I just don't understand how they can possibly get out of it. And then some crazy sort of shit happens and they sort of fumble back into like sort of doing what they're doing. But yeah, every episode, it was stressful Breaking Bad, but it was a really good show.
Or like Arrested Development, they tell you what's going to happen in the next episode, and it's stuff that never happened.
Right. Or on the previously on in Arrested Development, they just make up stuff. Then we have Kimberly Crowder said that regarding this episode, she said, I loved it. I loved how much it made me think of Voyager and their situation, right? And I think that's a good call. They are similarly separated from their home base, even more so in this case because they can actually go back to Earth. It's not their Earth, right? It also made Kimberly think of Deep Space Nine and Jadzia and Ezri, all the Trill stuff, what the Trill have lost, what they can get back, and just how much effort they put into focusing on the mental health of the crew, just as much as the physical health. And of course, that's not true across the board. Dr. Pollard, again, not seem to be as interested in the mental health. So that most of the comments are good. Most of the reviews I've read are good. People really dug this episode. And then, and then you get some other people, like this person who I assume is a gentleman because they've provided a gentleman's name. And this gentleman said,
is it actually a gentleman?
I believe so. A man.
Is he more of a cad?
A cad, a chav. This comment just says, millennial aged writers, Get used to it. They have to slow it down as much as possible and fill it with eye candy so the kids can try to stay focused. Forget about a plot too short of an attention span. Just saying.
It's one of those statements that like lists things that are supposed to be interpreted as bad things, but it doesn't actually provide any examples.
And there seem to be contradictory because the kids have too short an attention span, so they slow things down.
That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
It's like this person doesn't have the attention span to actually watch this episode.
Yeah, and it was a very puzzling comment, but that wasn't the capper from this particular person. So they wrote that comment, and I thought, okay, that's the comment. And then I looked down, and they wrote a reply to their own comment that said, "And don't get me started on black writers.
Oh.
It is either dope, death, and ass, or they take somebody else's great work and replace the characters with black actors."
What?
Just saying.
What is he just
Oh,
saying?
he's just saying. So he's just saying.
That's not just saying.
No, it's not.
Black writers?
Yeah. There's another, like, not providing any kind of sort of evidence or examles of what you're talking about. You just make assertions.
Does it have
Very
anything
strange.
to do with this episode of Star Trek, or is it just in general?
Just being racist.
He's just saying.
It's just like,
I just want to say racist stuff.
I'm just going on Facebook and just be racist.
Yeah.
This is an example of
Race
a
book.
racist Star Trek fan.
Yeah,
and
it
then
is.
I have no doubt this person would be like, "I'm not racist. I'm just saying it's crazy how black." I don't know who wrote this episode. I don't know if they're black or not. But he's like, "Oh, black writers," and they're destroying.
There's 3 black people on the show.
Black people came in and took Gene Roddenberry's vision and just destroyed it. It's like, come on. It's like, that's horrifying. I have no idea how to respond to that.
I remember this wasn't as bad, but it was still just it was still fucked up. This person was talking about season of Rick and Morty, and the person was like, yeah, basically saying, yeah, there's a bunch of women added on the writing staff now. I haven't found it as funny lately. I'm not saying it's because of the women.
Yes, you are.
But, I'm just saying, basically ended it with a I'm just saying kind of thing, and it's like
These people need to take writing classes so they can see exactly. They're accidentally writing a perfect thesis to state something very horrible.
Yeah.
Like they're doing a really good job, and then they're claiming they're not doing a good job at saying the horrible. Their thesis is presented thusly.
Yeah.
Like, did you go back and read what you wrote? Like,
yeah, then the hatred is even less subtle on the comment you read, Patrick, from referring to Discovery. It's just saying black writers do this.
And I like the concept of millennial aged writers. It makes me think of I was on Twitter the other day, and somebody was calling some reporter like a dumb millennial. And the reporter woman wrote back, "I'm 50 years old."
it'd be funny if this person was like 18 and he's talking about millennials like as the older people.
Yeah, maybe.
Probably earlier that day he referred to a 20-year-old as a boomer.
Yeah. Okay, boomer.
Okay, boomer.
Right.
You can't even drink. Anyway, I'm not trying to bring anybody down with that because that was an aberration. I mean, there's tons of comments. I didn't read them all. I just picked a couple of the good ones, but yeah, I just wanted to mention that because that's fucked up, and we see a lot of that fucked up shit on
no bueno, man.
on online. Luckily, we don't see it too much in the Star Trek communities, but it does come out a lot.
This was Facebook and one of the groups.
That was in one of the Facebook groups. And again, most of the groups are fine, and it's not about having one opinion. I mean, because there are the whole point of having these groups is so that you have a lot of people with different opinions who are arguing about it, because that's what's so fun about being a genre fan, a Star Trek fan, a Star Wars fan, is not sitting around a room jerking each other off about how great everything is. No, you argue over particulars and over headcanon, over which movie is better and all that other stuff. That's
black people on Star Trek, no way.
I know, right? You don't need, but yeah, that's the difference, right? The difference is when it's sort of a naked
I'm just saying, but
racism, misogyny, etc. There's a difference between a ribald joke, which you will see in certain Star Trek areas, but they're clearly meant for fun and in jest. But as opposed to just naked, like, "Bah, fuck these people, fuck these people. I'm going to list a bunch of contrary bullshit. Fuck these people. Why are their lives better than me? Affirmative action."
Yeah. It's pretty lame.
Anyway,
You know, speaking of angry people, when Detmer when they all left the room after the meal that went horribly wrong, but actually went super right. I thought it was funny because she was all pissed off and she's leaving the room, and I had closed captioning on. And when she goes through the door, the closed captioning just said, "Door whooshes open." It says whooshes. I thought that was funny.
I like
But
it.
you might have had to be there.
I didn't notice. I often watch it with captions as
Often
well.
wrong, sir.
If I watch it on my phone, it has the captions, and I didn't notice that whoosh, but I've noticed previous whooshes on the show.
I usually watch the second viewing on caption, and then if it's late, I might put on caption because I live in a place where people can hear me.
I watch it at work sometimes, so that's why.
Oh, and that's pretty rad. It's awesome.
Like at lunch, you know.
Yeah, no, that's pretty tight. I'm into that.
So I think the last two things to cover are what are your thoughts about Adira and being able to see gray, right? Because it's not like we haven't seen something similar with the Trill before on Deep Space Nine, but this context is different. She seems to be seeing one of her previous hosts and interacting with that previous host. Do you think it's hallucination? Do you think it's the symbiote trying to help her, since she's a human, maybe have a different way to help incorporate?
It seems like it might be something different because she's a human. That would make sense to me.
Wait, so you're talking about, for example, when Gray was helping Adira play the cello?
Yes,
with
at that end. That scene at the end, because that's outside of the communion zone.
This is what I was talking about in terms of the how the mind sequence where they go inside Adira's mind. That's what I was trying to sort of say about not necessarily a literal representation of what's happening, you know, just sort of like just coming up with sort of a way to interpret it in a nice way. Not that I can say yes or no, but my assumption always was no. Adira doesn't actually see Gray. Adira, this is just the manifestation of how the emotions that they're getting. From the appearance of Gray, and the only way to express those emotions is through the visual because you can't really describe them.
And that's how I would have taken it if it weren't for the fact that Adira expresses out loud saying, "How are you here? What's this deal?" And Gray is like, "I don't know."
Yeah.
And the whole thing about they're talking about should we tell Michael Burnham about that? And
Adira thinks that Michael won't believe her.
Yeah, and then the other dude's like, "Well, yeah, like why wouldn't she?" Or
Yeah, no,
she would. Like,
I can totally see that, but also I once again go back to the idea that it's such a foreign concept for us to understand what it's like to be joined with another mind.
But we have still seen a lot of this before, and we saw with Dax, for example, that she only experienced this type of thing either when she was in the pool of symbiotes or when doing one of those there was a few things like when there was that one episode where the guy tried to like steal the symbiote from her. I forget. There's a few different cases where where she gets to interact with the previous host, like when their minds go into all her friends. That was a pretty fun episode.
I can't think of any episodes off the top of my head, but I do remember sometimes there's episodes where a person's talking to a hallucination, and I think it's part of someone's mind, and I'm just like, why are you talking with your mind in front of people at this restaurant? They're all thinking you're nuts. So I don't know, but
maybe they are. Yeah, crazy. What was it that Gray said?
That's usually how it goes.
Yeah, you're acting crazy.
Yeah. It was, what did she say? She said something about crazy. She said, "You're being a crazy person."
What was that? Gray said that.
Yeah, Gray said that after Adira said, "I feel like I need to keep up," and then Gray goes, "You're being a crazy person. It's not a race." I know she meant it lovingly.
Crazy.
He meant it lovingly.
He meant it lovingly. I'm sorry. So yeah, I think that in terms of so the only kind of things that I really assume at first are literal visions or things like Star Wars. Like I think that's basically obvious that they're seeing Obi-Wan and all that stuff.
Hey, look over there. That's Obi-Wan over there.
And this one,
that's really him.
Look at Obi-Wan. He's all glowing and shit.
Right. This one, Discovery
over there.
Where you been, Obi-Wan? I needed help.
I would say with this one,
blow up the Death Star. He runs off.
I would say
you were the only hope, Obi-Wan.
I would say that you all present a good point that it could be a literal manifestation, an apparition, but I haven't made up my mind yet. So
I think it's in Adira's mind regardless.
Yes, for sure.
About what
it's her inner mind to the max so much that it changed who she was.
But what mechanism is it? Since we haven't previously seen, people talked to previous hosts before.
I think there's a chance it's just a narrative sort of way of
But
showing it.
the implication is that we're going to see more of Gray. So Gray's going to be around.
Well, it's narrative. I think Gray's going to be around.
Will it cause trouble? Because as you noted, if you're walking around talking to people looking like a crazy person, that could be a plot point. But anyway, we'll find out more. I just thought it was worth a couple moments of discussion.
It definitely was, because I was actually I was thinking that too.
Actually, okay, and then I lied before. There are two more things. The next thing was when they're playing the Buster Keaton stuff, right? Mm-hmm. And Culber, is thanking Saru, and Saru says, "Oh, I wish I could take credit for this, but actually it was the computer and the sphere data, and they're trying to protect us." That whole jibe. The first time I watched it, I thought, okay, well, yeah, Saru took the computer's, one of its initial suggestions. The computer had mentioned Buster Keaton, so Saru had the idea to have this surprise party in the shuttle bay. But on the second time I watched it, I was thinking, maybe the computer just called people to shuttle bay and just decided to do it on its own. And it kind of makes more sense with Saru saying that the ship wants to protect the crew.
Yeah, no, I didn't think about that, but that seems very plausible, because it's just like, come down for a surprise, and it just came up with that on its own, and yeah, I think that's
it would be like this. It would be a lot like how things go down in the short trek, where you hear that voice.
I was thinking
no spoilers.
I was thinking that when he says it's not up, it wasn't my call. I was thinking, well, it was a little bit your call. You got some suggestions and you went with something.
And
you're
that's
the captain, goddammit.
And so maybe it was
what got
totally,
me thinking the second time.
Yeah, you might be right.
Anyway, all right, and now the third and final.
I have two quick things.
Okay, no, you can have your things, but the final thing I wanted to talk about was leading into this season. We had already known from the previews and from the news reports and everything that they were going to be going to Trill, that the Trill people were going to be involved in one way or another. We now know at least the initial parts of that. And there were a lot of people who were commenting on whether or not we would see a future Dax host. Now, some people were saying that would be super stupid, and the symbiotes aren't supposed to live that long or whatever. Other people were saying that would be super cool and a good way to tie things in. Now, as we know, at least in this instance, when they went to Trill, maybe they'll go back, but we did not meet a Dax host. So I was wondering what your thoughts were about if we were to meet one. One thing I immediately thought was it would be uncharacteristic of a Dax symbiote to go back to Trill and hang out on Trill. Even after the burn, I could see that everything we know about the Dax symbiote from previous situations was that they were kind of into wandering around and exploring and having fun, right? So I just figure if you're going to meet a Dax, it would be out in space somewhere, not necessarily on Trill. But there's nothing saying they couldn't be on Trill. But what would you think? Would it be annoying if we met a Dax?
I mean, it'd be unnecessary. It's kind of like, when they try to tie too much stuff in together, for some reason, Darth Vader made C-3PO for some reason.
Right.
Did that need to happen?
That was completely unnecessary.
Yeah, but it wouldn't necessarily be like that. It would be unlikely, though. It would be back to the thing talking about, when they all happen to appear in the same spot in the Borg ship in Picard.
It wouldn't be annoying like Darth Vader making C-3PO.
No.
That had a certain annoying kind of ring to it. But
what if we saw a Dax on Strange New Worlds, but previous Dax?
Yeah, right.
Like the Dax that was hanging out. Which one do you remember?
Kazon?
No, it wasn't Curzon Dax. It was it was one of the female Daxes because she referred to Dr. McCoy having a doctor's fingers.
Right, but there was a Dax that was at the Kittimer Accords.
That might have been Curzon.
I thought that was Curzon. I guess he lives a long time though.
Yeah, but the Kittimer Accords also happened way after, because when she was talking about McCoy, it was, I think, even pre-Enterprise, maybe McCoy.
I think I would,
because he was pretty old. That McCoy, he was like the oldest guy on the crew or something.
Yeah, and he didn't like transporting.
Nope, he's a doctor. Sad. He knows what happens. You basically get destroyed. I think that if
Are you talking about essential workers?
I'm talking about.
Or are you just talking a bunch of nonsense?
No, I'm talking about when you get transported. It destroys you.
Okay. I thought you were somehow I thought in your mind you were like, yeah, he's a doctor. You're going to get destroyed.
I kind of want to hear that back because I think I probably did ramble. My mind probably went in a separate
It
branch.
got weird.
A branch structure
Well,
than what I
you'll get
said.
your chance to hear it back
Yeah.
if you just visit itsgotstartrek.com or anywhere where you can find good quality podcasts.
Not available on TV, but there is on TV through YouTube.
Yeah,
It's got
you can get it on
feedback.
YouTube.
Got feedback.
We're not there yet, Jesse. We're almost there.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I think
Almost
that,
there.
I think that I would accept a Dax if it was happened to be on Trill. Yeah, that's the only scene it would really make sense. Because why would they meet Dax off in space?
My only argument was that Dax, as a character, was an adventurous symbiote, and not all the hosts, but a lot of the hosts were, about going out and having
but maybe they're
adventures.
coming back though because of the burn. Because the burn happened. Now they're a
Dax
little bit.
would be out fucking drinking,
Well,
gambling, getting into all sorts of fights.
I don't know. Maybe Dax would pull a "I need to really get my shit together" kind of thing.
Well, speaking of which,
Dax had his own burn.
we still haven't seen the Klingons, we haven't seen
burned
the
it down.
Vulcans, and we haven't seen the Romulans. We are guessing we're going to see probably the Vulcans and
The
Romulans.
Vulcans are not healed by laughter.
What?
There was a part where they were talking about how laughter was healing. I don't remember if it was Culber or the Sphere was saying that.
They might like it when people are laughing around them, kind of like when you quit smoking, but you like standing next to somebody who's smoking a cigarette.
Yeah. Or like just smell of bacon if you don't want to eat it.
But you don't have to. 'cause
I'm
you
just
can,
gonna
you
eat
can
it.
still smell that. You can smell that cigarette a mile away. Man.
Yeah, you're like, "Oh."
Somebody's smoking a cigarette.
Hey there.
Where is that shit?
All right, what were you had a couple things, Dan?
So there was just a scene that people should look at it and tell me what they think. So when Burnham says to Adira near the beginning, after Culber tells it, when Burnham first is like, "Hey, we got to do this together," and Adira's all like, "I don't know." So Burnham goes, "You trust Dr. Culber because you like him, not because he's a doctor." So this is about at 13 minutes 40 seconds in. When she says that, right after she says that, they change shots, so it's not like this. But before they change shots, there's a dude walking down the hall, and he was going to run right into Burnham. He was going to run right into her.
That's the dude that looks like you.
No, it's the dude that looked like me was like a little earlier. He had lighter hair. I think you only saw the back of this guy's head, I think.
This is something unrelated. This is a funny camera move.
Yeah, and so about 13 minutes, 40 seconds in, you see this, they change the shot, and he looks like he's
Bad blocking.
gonna run right into her. And maybe they did. Maybe
That guy's been staring at those transparent tactical displays too long.
That's the
and
problem.
he thinks you can just like walk through things.
That's how they get you. They fuck your brain up.
He was doing military stuff.
I wanted to point out how in a Discovery, the captain's office is fucking enormous. Now, Picard's office was enormous in First Contact, but not in TNG. He had a
Yeah,
super
it was
small
kinda
office.
little.
It wasn't.
It wasn't even a small office, but it was.
they call
it was not the ready room. Yeah,
It was the captain's ready room, though. It's not. I'm not talking about the one with the conference table.
No, that's the conference table. That's a different one.
Yeah. The one in the captain's at the
That's
front.
like the conference room versus the captain's ready room.
Like his little office off the bridge.
Yeah, if you're looking at TNG
with the fish for a
I just
while.
knock shit around. If you're looking at TNG, watching on TV in the back left, I don't know stage left, stage right. I should because it's probably really easy, like port and bow. But if you look back to the left, that's where the conference room is. But up into the front,
Stern and bow.
to the right, that's where the captain's
starboard.
office
Yeah,
is.
port and starboard, stern and bow, stage left, stage right.
Picard's
exit
quarters
stage
had a
right.
nice couch that he would lounge on while he was reading his books.
Yeah,
And he'd be-
it
and
felt
he'd be
more
drinking
cozy.
Personal relaxation.
I thought it made more
lounge.
Drinking tea.
I thought it made more sense. It seemed more cozy, but yeah, I don't know why the captain needs such a huge fucking office. In any case, something about post-traumatic growth.
I guess it was originally that
interesting.
Lorca guy's office, and he was kind of a,
Was that originally Lorca's office? Because he has a different layout. Because he
was the first captain.
Well,
we know of.
Lorca had the whole stand-up desk and the fortune cookies.
Yeah, he had a
and stuff.
stand-up desk in the middle of like the lengthwise, whereas Saru has his desk at the end, sort of facing. It's parallel with the width, whereas Lorca's was parallel with the length.
That's a cavernous. That ship isn't even that big.
Yeah, I don't know what they need.
It's a fairly big ship.
it's big, but it's
how do you
not-
need
It has
that
a
much
small
space for
crew.
Yeah.
like you? Maybe they just don't have a separate conference room or something.
It's experimental ship.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe
True.
maybe the geometry is
I got
necessary.
that
for
mycelial
something.
network.
You get big rooms because I got the crazy geometries.
Cyclopean geometries.
Yeah.
I like the idea of post-traumatic growth. Some fucked up shit happens and you're forced to grow. I like that idea of
It's like mycelial growth.
After we're done recording, let's fuck each other up so we can grow.
Yeah, that's probably what Fight Club was
I'm
about.
a
or
blade
something.
man.
What? God damn.
He's gonna fucking cut us.
I had two things. I had two things, but I ended up having more. This last one though is just a comment. Is I got when she gave the coordinates, I got some kind of Picardy vibes. Picardy, what was that? Picardy third? Is that
Picardy third.
No, Picardy vibes.
Picardy modulation.
Did you feel like because they're heading towards this? I'm not saying Discovery is like Picard because there's very obvious differences, but I got a vibe.
You mean the show Picard?
The show Picard, yeah, sorry, that's what I meant. Yeah, the show Picard in the sense, okay, now they're trying to get to some coordinates.
You mean Picard-esque?
Picard. So this episode is almost like the beginning of the Picard adventure, but who knows? They might move on from it really quick because they moved on from the Earth thing.
I mean,
really
they've
quick.
been doing.
So I'm not saying that the series is like the show Picard. I'm saying this episode gave me some like Picard vibes at the end there, very briefly when they were exchanging like coordinates.
I feel you.
She figured out with an algorithm that Senatal made it, and then I've been saying their name the whole time.
They have those screens in Picard too.
Adira.
Adira.
I can't believe I fucking forgot
Adele.
it. I don't know.
You said that last week too.
Yeah, I'm silly. Did you notice the red flower at the red flower at the opening of Discovery? It pops out. It's all red. Mm-hmm. It looks like a bird head at one point. Sometimes it looks like a bird head. You look at it, it looks like a bird head at one
Some
point.
kind of bird head coming up out of that thing.
I have neither a critique nor an affirmative response to that.
And it shows their fix-it bots.
Yeah,
in the
fix it
opening.
bots. Yeah, that's pretty cool.
All right. So that's the episode.
50th episode.
50th episode, and that was a gangbanger. Is that what they call it?
Gangbuster.
It was a gangbanger of an episode.
No, they don't say that. Nobody says that.
Isn't that a term?
That's a term, but not what you think it is.
Isn't it one of them millennial terms? Gangbanger. How was your birthday party last night? Oh, it was a gangbanger.
I think that's a Generation X term.
Real quick. When Burnham
Car 54, where are you?
When Culber's telling Burnham to like help out Adira, she goes, "I don't even know how to navigate being on this ship right now," indicating that she can't handle Adira because she doesn't have her shit together. That reminded me of the shit that people without children, myself being one of them, and I've been guilty of saying this, when someone's like, you should have a kid, or have you ever thought about having kids? The answer is always like, I can't even handle myself right now. And then you talk to someone with kids and they're like, you just do it, you know? And that's...
I would love if you'd use that voice. I can't even handle myself right now.
Excuse
me. Excuse me.
No, I'm serious. I'm enduring severe emotional trauma. I can't handle myself right now. Why aren't you helping me?
And he called her a responsibility hoarder right after he fucking gave her a bunch of responsibility. So I thought that was like, he was just saying you should follow my responsibility. No, I think it was a fair thing for him to do.
I think it was a fair thing too.
I don't even know where the worm is. It's in her heart. It makes me feel constipated.
What was it that on that? Never mind.
Squid?
No. It was going to be a whole poop conversation.
You thought better of it?
I don't know where the worm is.
Because we've been recording for a long time. So, all right, episode 50. That's done. Next week,
episode 50.
We don't know what the episode's called. We're not going to look it up. It's going to be the next episode of Discovery. By the time this is up, you'll know. You don't care. You're going to listen to the episode regardless. You don't even watch Discovery. You just listen to us. We understand that.
You almost don't need to watch Discovery.
You don't necessarily need to. Now, we don't do a particularly good job of summarizing the episode.
Yeah, but who wants to listen to a straight summary?
Nobody. Well, a lot of people, I think. That's not what we're providing.
You can read like 5 articles that do that, or 10 articles.
Right. I think I saw a Reddit post specifically in podcasts about our podcast being like, what do you guys think of shows that are based on other shows? And one of the responses was problem they had with, I think it was the Rick and Morty one, is they felt it was basically too much of a summary, according to this person's opinion.
Yes.
I haven't heard the podcast, but so you know.
And it's also,
I guess you want to be a little cohesive, but I don't know.
And I imagine it's also difficult when you're doing a comedy because there was a funny joke, and then there was a joke that was not so funny.
Right.
Or I thought it was funny, but this other guy thought it was terrible.
I'm going to quote it.
Did you think it was funny, Dan? I didn't think it was that funny.
I thought it was really funny.
I think you guys.
I think
are
the
funny.
joke made me
It
laugh.
wasn't as funny as Dilly Dally.
I've probably done that a few times on this show. Dilly dally.
Dilly dally?
Who says that?
That's what we do.
It's outside my bailiwick to dilly dally.
Belly wick.
Silly Sally.
It's like you light a candle on your stomach as your belly wick.
What?
That's no.
Oh my God! You
Bailiwick.
just made me think of like the whole thing where you put the rat on the stomach and the bucket on the rat.
Oh, no.
Then you put the fire
bucket on the rat. Put the rat on the stomach and the bucket on the rat.
Put the fire on the bucket and the rat eats its way in.
Yeah, no, I was thinking more like smushing earwax all over your stomach and then putting a wick in it.
I think mine is less horrifying. Just you collect enough earwax to spread it around. By definition,
That's a lot of earwax.
it's gross. Okay, so 50th episode done. Next week, episode 51, and then episode 52, and we'll probably make a big deal about that too.
End of podcast.
and then that will have been a year of podcasting.
Konos.
Konos. Feedback at It's Got Star Trek. Feedback at itsgotstartrek.com. Yeah, feedback at itsgotstartrek.com is the email. As we mentioned last week, the email is for you to send us intensely personal questions. You know, it could be personal about you, it could be personal about us, whatever. I mean, because otherwise, just reach out to us on Twitter
It's like,
at It's Got Star Trek.
How do you tie a tie?
Yeah, there's YouTube channels.
How do you pronounce Kalish? Because it's spelled Kalish.
Kalish?
Yeah, it's spelled Kalish.
Kalish!
Klingon pronunciations, we can help you with that.
Yeah, or direct you.
Kronos is spelled like Konos.
Yeah.
Like the Quran.
And at It's Got Star Trek is Twitter. You can get us there. We're very active on Twitter. It's also Instagram. You can find us on Facebook.
I'm trying to get better about Twitter. Patrick is mostly the active one.
I'm mostly, but sometimes it's Dan, sometimes it's me. Probably mostly me, but Dan's gonna be doing more.
I'm gonna try.
He's gonna get more active, right?
Yeah,
we
I'm
like to
gonna try.
interact with people and have all sorts of fun.
I feel guilty when the episode goes on this long because it's like I wish I could ease your pain a little on that, but
No, it's all right. So then, what else do we have? YouTube. And then there's like the main website.
I would be willing to do anything.
Anything? Would you be willing to put a rat on your belly? And then,
No, but I'd rub earwax
and then
on
the
my
bucket
stomach.
on the rat.
The bucket on the rat.
would you put the earwax? How about this? How about we compromise? We get a rat and smear it with earwax and let it run around on your body.
Just kind of greasing everything up.
Oh, I would get footprints of earwax everywhere.
Footprints of earwax.
Where do you get all that earwax from?
Where do you get all these ideas?
You get all these crazy. I don't know. You collect the earwax.
I can't even handle my own life.
Yeah. How am I gonna handle a baby?
Where's the wine?
Where's the little wine?
www.itsgotstartrek.com. You can find out all this information. You
It's in our
can listen to episodes. You can sort episodes by series. Wouldn't that be convenient? You're interested only in TNG? We'll sort it by TNG. You'll
It's
only
got-
get the episodes we've recorded that talk about TNG.
It's got a sophisticated search engine.
It has a it's all right. It's got search engine. We got the categories and stuff. Everything you need is there. Just go there. You might be there right now. You might be listening to this right now. Probably not. Is my guess. You probably dumped out about this about 15 minutes ago.
This one hasn't come on.
Well, like
yet.
they've already made points about Saru and popcorn and that's it. That's all. We're done. We got what we need. All right. So
Started talking about Java and JavaScript.
that's it for this week, and we'll
Ports
see
and
you
cardboards.
next week. So goodbye.
Bye.
Kelp dries in the sun. An existential crisis. Is there some dessert?
Is that a haiku?
Yes.
Emperor Giorgio, feasting on the finest cuts. Snarf's cookies on the download. I screwed up the last line.
Better? Here.
Haiku?
I puked upon the Delaware ambassador once at Thanksgiving. This is an actual diplomatic crisis.
Okay, this is not what I want to hear at dinner. I mean, who raised you people?